Hello, everyone. My name is Dora Kagan, and I grew up in Norwalk, Connecticut. I was born and raised, lived there all my life. When I was 6 years old, on a Sunday morning, I remember going forward to the altar, and my dad is the pastor of our church, and I remember praying a prayer to ask Jesus to save me that day. But growing up from that day on, I had a lot of doubts about my salvation, and I barely could remember that day at all, and just wondered if I was really saved. And I remember one night when I was 11 years old, I was laying in my bed, just so convicted. I knew I wasn't saved. If I died right then, I would go to hell. And so I went across the hall that night to my parents' bedroom, and my mom led me through the whole plan of salvation and showed me how I'm a sinner. I don't deserve to go to heaven on my own works, but I have to trust Jesus and what he did on the cross for me to get me to heaven. So I trusted Jesus that night to save me, and I've never, if I ever have a doubt ever since that day, I just look back and I know I asked Jesus to save me. He's taking me to heaven. A couple years later, our family went through a very hard time, and we found out my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she struggled with that for about 4 years. She had tumors, and they kept coming back. She had radiation and chemotherapy. I don't know if anyone here knows someone that's had cancer, but you know what a struggle that is. And so she struggled with that for about 4 years. And now, almost 2 years ago this August, my mom passed away from the cancer. And I was 17 years old at the time, and I just graduated high school. And it was a very hard time in my life, knowing I wouldn't have a mom for the rest of my life. And it was a very hard time, but God has helped me through it. And one of the biggest things that's helped me is knowing that my mom was saved. And I'm saved as well, and I know I'm going to see her someday in heaven whenever I go to heaven. And so I just encourage anyone here who doesn't know that for sure to get that taken care of and make sure you know for sure you're going to go to heaven when you die. But the next song we're going to sing is called I Go to Jesus. I wrote this song this past school year. I'm a music education major, so I had to do it for one of my finals in one of my classes. But I hope this is a blessing for you all, and it just encourages you to go to Jesus whenever you're going through a trial. If you're wondering who I go to when I'm broken, and if you're wondering who I talk to when I'm sad, if you're wondering how do I carry on through all the heartache that I've been through, oh my friend, let me tell you, I go to Jesus. Wash away each stain. He comforts like no other can, and he always has a plan. I go to Jesus. I go to Jesus. Now we all have our fortunes and our upsets, and we've all been down the road of deep regret. But as for me, there's always one friend who I know that I can go to in each trial that I go through. I go to Jesus, where only he can heal my pain. I go to Jesus, where he can wash away each stain. He comforts like no other can, and he always has a plan. I go to Jesus. I go to Jesus. Now I know that I can make it on my own, though I may try. Jesus is the only one who can wipe each tear I cry. I go to Jesus, where only he can heal my pain. I go to Jesus, where he can wash away each stain. He comforts like no other can, and he always has a plan. I to Jesus. I go to Jesus. Jesus is the sweetest name I know, and he's just the same as his lovely name. And that's the reason why I love him so. For Jesus is the sweetest name I know. He comforts like no other can, and he always has a plan. I go to Jesus.